everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cloud Connect. Grant here. We've got Ryan, and then we've got a special guest today, Prashi. Welcome, Prashi.
Hey, Grant. Hey, Ryan. How's it going?
Thanks for joining us.
Doing well. So the topic for today really is Microsoft as a platform. So I think it makes sense first, right, just to give some context, give a little background, right, of you, Prashi, who you are. You're a teammate of mine. We're on the same team here at Microsoft. I know you haven't worked previously with Ryan, but tell us about yourself. Give us a little background on yourself, and then we can start from there.
Yeah, Grant, thanks for inviting me to this. It's great what you guys are doing. And Ryan, nice to meet you. Yes, Grant, as you know, I started my career actually in cybersecurity. I wanted to be in technology, had opportunity to join McAfee. Decent product, and especially at the time, it is a great company. But over time, I started recognizing there were some issues, and wanted to do something new. I got an opportunity to work at CrowdStrike and was a semi-early employee there. Was there for 3.5 years, just before, a few years before they went public, and then a little bit after that in the pandemic area. Started my own business for a bit, and over last year got interested in what Microsoft was doing, especially around Copilot, and now I'm here.
Yeah, so you've had a great bit of experience in different, other security companies. And I know you and I have talked about it a little bit offline, but really digging a little bit deeper, what drew you to Microsoft, be interested in Microsoft? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of fear of missing out, so to speak, from the outside. I mean, there was always great buzz about what the company was doing. But more specifically, about a year ago, I remember reading an article, and maybe we can add in the show notes, but I read an article where it said CrowdStrike executives are not interested in getting into a price war with Palo Alto. And that caught my interest because when I was at CrowdStrike, we didn't really think about Palo Alto, not from a dismissive point of view, but just they were in their lane. CrowdStrike was, doing endpoint, they were staying in their lane. And so that got me interested, like what's going on? And, then I saw an interview with CEO of Palo Alto, Nikesh Arora. He was talking about Microsoft. He's talking about CrowdStrike. And that really got me to take a step back and go, something's brewing here. There's, the drums of war are beating, so to speak. And these are companies that traditionally stayed in their own lanes, but now they're talking about each other. And it became pretty clear that what was, what made these companies best of breed and leaders in their space, they were about to go into a step change, which I think a lot of the industry now is calling platformization, right? And for me, Microsoft was the only company out there that had a true end-to-end security platform. And the crux of it is, they had a security platform, but why did these companies care about a security platform is because of enterprise AI. And Microsoft was, again, coming out to be a leader there. And so that's what got me interested in Microsoft about a year ago. I started speaking with the company, and now here I'm enjoying my time so far.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, and you've brought with a wealth of knowledge and experience. So I think, again, like going back to the topic of the episode and Microsoft as a platform, right? That's really the value pitch that we talk about every day with our customers. And it's funny, even when you look in the market, right? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, like other organizations are trying to do the same, because we all know that our customers are typically under budgeted. They're short staffed. I mean, I don't know the figures now, but it's like there's millions of vacancies in security positions in IT. And like, it's obvious that, AI, generative AI is going to be there to kind of level the playing field when you think of, the nation state groups that are out there. So maybe just talk a little bit about like your perspective or experience now that you've been, at Microsoft for a while. You've been having conversations with customers. You've been obviously, learning all of our lingo, our jargon, our value props. Like, maybe what's one or
There's
two
a lot of
stories, I know we've talked about a ton of them previous to this that we can tee up, but like, what are some interesting findings or things that you've had since you've been here?
Yeah, I mean, I think being part of, I've been part of some great companies, and there still are great companies, but I think the one thing that's really differentiates Microsoft is they really aren't just a cybersecurity company. They're in my opinion, the best way to describe them is a customer experience company. And this came out, this was very true to me when I was speaking to a CIO, and I was staying in my lane, talking cybersecurity and how this is better and that's better. And he kind of stopped me and he said, hey, we actually also need to look into Microsoft Teams. There's some security issues with the web conferencing product that they're using. And that really got me to think that, CIOs and CISOs, they're not just worried about cybersecurity products, point place products, which we have the best of, but there's a lot of tools out there. They're also looking at it from a more holistic point of view. And Teams is an adjacent team to us, Grant, and we don't really, we use it and we think it's a great product, but we're not really thinking about it from what we need to talk to customers about. But it's so important how they're not just looking at, endpoint solution, they're also looking at what's around them outside of just the security tools. And the other thing that's been interesting to see is how these tools, we're using them from the inside, right? And they're just run the entire enterprise, not just from, one product. Because every company I worked for it's been great companies, but they've been one product. Now I'm part of Microsoft. I'm seeing so many different products, and they basically empowering the entire enterprise, from cybersecurity to the web applications to Teams to PowerPoint, Excel, and it's just incredible to see. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I know and then Ryan, I want to let you jump in, of course, but I think something that you talked about, I mean, that story, right, of like, hey, Microsoft really thinks about end user experience was so powerful and profound. I mean, there was obviously a big outage that happened not too long ago with a couple organizations, affected Microsoft. And like, really, what was that all about? It was like, hey, this is the end user experience. The end users can't interact with the systems. They can't perform their jobs, right? And to your point, like, you think about security, you think about compliance, but maybe how that ties into using productivity apps, or how that ties into communicating internally and externally across an organization. Or one that I love talking about all the time with folks is, can we leverage passwordless authentication? I mean, that's a huge win potentially for an organization, not only for IT, which we know it's safer, more secure, but from, again, that end user experience of like, nobody wants to remember passwords. And if you do, you probably have 4 of them on a sticky note, right? I mean, it's no longer a really safe, secure method for how we know hackers are getting into organizations. They aren't breaking in, they're signing in, they're logging in, right? So yeah, I mean, I think there's just been so many great little nuggets of information, perspective that you've brought to the team. But Ryan, I want you to obviously chime in.
Yeah, I was on mute earlier. I'm having some work done on my house right now, so they have stopped hammering right outside my wall, which I appreciate. So if it happens again, I'll mute and you guys can chat without me. But no, I think you're right. It's been really interesting to me to see how people start to approach this stuff now. Right? Microsoft's been doing stuff with Intune, Hello for Business, right, on the user-facing side for security and some of that user experience. But over the last 5 years, we've also gotten much deeper into antivirus, right? How we're doing EDR, what we're doing on servers for cloud apps, right? How are you protecting your data in a way that it can't just be, oh, we put up a firewall and we're done, right? Your data is going to be accessible from other places now. It's shared in ways that you maybe aren't aware of. And so those are conversations that Grant and I have all the time with our customers, right? And a lot of it now, luckily, Copilot's been a weird wedge for us to use to talk to people who haven't been as concerned about data governance. And then they go, boy, Copilot looks great. And I'm like, yeah, how secure is your data though? Right? Are you sure everything is shared properly? Are you sure permissions are there? And so now that conversation has really come to the forefront for us. But we have some customers who are just saying, we're blocking everything we can that touches AI. Like our users just can't, we don't want to touch any of it. I'm like, well, that's fine, but what happens when they go home and use their home computer? right? And they take those files they want to use Copilot or Bard or whatever to generate. What then? Right? So this is what I've seen in my previous role, right, outside of Microsoft, is users are going to find a way to use the tools they want to use. And we, as Microsoft, are trying to give you, an organization, the tools you need to do that effectively. If you just tell your users, nope, sorry, you don't get access to any of the, the generative AI stuff, they're going to find another way to do it. And it's not going to be under your control, won't be with your protection, right? You're sort of like, you're letting them just go out and, my wife, she's gonna hate me saying this now on the internet. Her parent had a rule that she could sneak out when she was a teenager as long as it was through the front door. Like, don't sneak out your window. If you're gonna leave in the middle of the night, go through the front door. Like, we gave you a front door that you can lock, right? Don't make your users try to sneak out through the window and hurt themselves. Instead, let's use the tools we have in place to really secure your data. And I think that's been a fun journey to see organizations start to really invest in and get behind. It's just gonna make everything easier for them.
I know, I love that. That's great. So Prashi, I mean, now obviously I think, what we're seeing a lot is, or at least I know, again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, like, the Microsoft platform, we've got our M365 product bundle that a lot of customers are leveraging, right? It's got their productivity apps, but then it includes our identity management solution in Entra ID. It includes Intune. It includes Azure Information Protection. It includes Windows Enterprise for endpoints. Like, it's just so interesting when we're having conversations with customers, like getting them to think about and realize they probably have a lot of duplicative solutions in the environment, right? They maybe use a third party for identity. They're using different solutions for, data governance. They have that, legacy telephony system or cloud, PBX that they use. And then again, like you talked about, you've got some friends that, are at competitors. What's the perspective,
Yeah, I was recently at an event and met up with a former colleagues at various cybersecurity companies, and honestly, great companies, great products, great CEOs and leaders. But one of the things that they were expressing to me is how they'll have great POCs. The customers validate that the product that they are looking at it works and it does exactly what they needed. But ultimately, they're going with Microsoft, and this is after a long sales cycle, and it's been frustrating for them. And I think the main thing what's happening is customers are realizing that best of breed was something that it made sense in the 2015s, 2016s when we're coming off of the legacy SaaS, legacy model and adopting best of breed SaaS applications. But best of breed now is table stakes, and there's a ton of best of breed products out there. And I think just being customer experience focused, Microsoft ended up with the security platform years ago when they were kind of mocked for it from the outside, right? And now it's paying dividends because the customers are realizing that, okay, we buy your product as best of breed, but now we've got one extra UI that somebody's got to learn. And if they quit and leave to another company, now we're scrambling to get somebody else trained on it. Ultimately, that's not a strategic advantage for the business. But if you go back to 2015, best of breed made sense because you're getting off of legacy cybersecurity products. And now the rest of the industry, I was saying a little bit earlier, but even 2 weeks ago, Nikesh Arora, CEO of Palo Alto, was on CNBC talking about his big purchase with the $500 million for QRadar. And he's saying the term that, they want to put the word platformization out there. But Microsoft built the security platform 5-6 years ago, and these are the same folks that were mocking Microsoft's strategy. So it's interesting to see how things have come around. I think right. Microsoft, Satya Nadella, and the leadership team here were doing it because of a customer experience focus. It just ended up happening that now with enterprise AI and these large language models coming out, you're not going to take 8 best of breed disparate products, take all that data in, send it to an enterprise AI, then shoot it back out to 8 different products. You're only going to be empowered by enterprise AI if you have a robust end-to-end platform in each part of the business unit. it just so happens in this conversation it's security, but that's the only way you're going to be able to leverage some of these tools that are coming out. And of course, that's the other great thing is Microsoft has the money and the cash in the balance sheet to be able to invest in enterprise AI, which is now why everybody's so focused on platformization. But yeah, that long-winded way to your point of what you're talking about, Grant.
No, I think it's a great recap, and I mean that's what we're seeing, and I think it goes back again to, like, you brought up some great points of the integration with AI and all that, but I think it comes back down to, like, a lot of organizations are belt tightening. They're looking at, like, hey, are there ways we can save money? Are there ways we can cut back on investments that we make? Because as the landscape has grown and expanded, the balance sheets and the budgets have grown over the years. So I think it's, again, just like so interesting to see as we continue, even like if we jump 5 years forward, kind of what does this look like? Who are the other competitors in the market that band together to create their platform approach? But yeah, it's fun to have the conversations, and it's fun to start to see, like you said, the realization that, like, hey, this is really the strategic advantage, come to fruition.
Yeah, and I think to your point with what we see, I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation, right? Because it's the only way to, I think, tackle the problems that enterprises are facing today, both in commercial and in government. So we'll probably see a lot of these great products, but fold into other larger companies as one or two emerge as they try to build out their platform. But again, that's a 5-year, 6-year project, and some companies are already on CNBC pitching it, but it's going to take time.
Yeah, no, indeed. Ryan, you got any thoughts, questions as we've been just kind of riffing here?
The hammering stopped for a second. No, just said, Prachi, I feel like your experience makes this a really relevant conversation. And I'm really glad that you're able to bring that to the table. I think one of the things that can be easy to lose track of if you've been with Microsoft for a while is, we kind of drink our own Kool-Aid in a lot of ways, right? You're in the environment. We have access to all the licenses, all the services, and we see the value of this. And it can be hard sometimes to realize that for our customers and for organizations, they're looking at this as these are competing products, not just, oh, Microsoft, yeah, how great this is, right? Or maybe they worry about having all their eggs in one basket, right? You talk about, this is a platform. Well, yeah, what if something goes wrong and Azure goes down, then what, right? And so a lot of times you see people trying to spread out the services they're using to try to make stuff safer for them in some ways. But like you said, right, someone leaves and no one knows how to use CrowdStrike or how to use AirWatch or whatever. And you go, now what? And so I think they're difficult conversations to have at times, right? About why you'd want to be with just one vendor and what that means. But yeah, I think it's incredibly helpful to have the experience, but to speak to what someone else is doing, right? Some of our competitors or just your real world experience outside of Microsoft, I think adds a ton of value to those conversations. So I'm glad you're here and getting to be a part of those.
And I've used that term, don't put all your eggs in one basket, because I've competed against Microsoft, and it's just interesting because now one or two of the industry leaders, security leaders, are now trying to build their own big basket to put all the eggs in. And I think, it just goes back to customer experience, being able to manage the product. There's a lot of turnover in this business too from our customers' experience. And if you've got a ton of different UIs, different update schedules, it's that complexity actually makes it easier for the bad guys to be able to
absolutely
get into your environment.
Well, and you may not realize there are gaps there, right? If you've got, oh no, we've got this tool for identity, this tool for endpoints, this tool for servers, you may not realize there are going to be gaps there where those tools don't mesh directly, right? And then how are you reviewing that data? We had an issue in my last organization where one of our monitoring tools went down, and no one knew it went down because it just wasn't giving us bad alerts for we don't know how long. Some length of time we weren't getting bad alerts. We kind of went, everything's perfect. Then we were like, we should buy a monitoring tool for the monitoring tool. And they go, what are we doing? Like, we're bundling all these, like, now we're just adding extra complexity. What if the monitoring tool to the monitoring tool goes down? So we don't know the monitor, right? And so that's the benefit, I think, of some of this, all your eggs in one basket sometimes is all these things tie in together in a way that we're worried about how you're going to use it. Like, we want to make sure it's as seamless as possible. So hopefully all those eggs, I don't know, this analogy is getting weirder and weirder in my head now. We're going to make an omelet out of all those eggs. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be healthy and safe and full of goodness. So, yeah, now I feel bad about saying that, but too late now.
Eggs in a basket.
On the internet.
Build your own omelet.
That's the new G7 license. It's going to be out soon, I'm sure.
You should put a asterisk there. We do not think there's a G7, so we did not say that.
That was a joke. Like
we get asked all the time. When's there going to be G7?
Oh, really?
More of a joke than anything, of course, but why not G6?
Is Grant and I like laugh nervously? Well, why not G4? Who knows, man? Why don't you go Windows 10 instead of Windows 9?
Well, I think we've had, some great, obviously conversation here. And again, Prashi, we really appreciate you hopping on and visiting us for a little bit. Any closing thoughts, statements? Maybe we already used them all up.
No, I think used them all up. But yeah, I think the future is bright. I mean, to the topic of this conversation, Microsoft security platform was mocked for many years, or the attack vector was don't put all your eggs in one basket. Turns out the entire industry wants to do the exact same thing. And going back to the main reason they're doing this is not just because the security platform is safer and it's easier for the customer, better customer experience, but also as Copilot and enterprise AI starts coming down the pipe, the only way to get have those tools empower your organization is platformization.
Agreed. Well, hey, appreciate the time.
Yep, it's fun, Grant. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I'd love to do this again. So,
Guys, have a good
day.
Yep.
See you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.